The universe was vast, and in its sprawling, indifferent expanse lay planets both wondrous and barren. Yet, for the Xelari expedition, this particular uninhabited planet, designated XG-476 by their charts, was a peculiar anomaly. Its sky glimmered with a golden hue, and the sprawling surface shimmered as though laced with flecks of starlight. But none of this beauty explained the oddity the Xelari science team had encountered. It wasn't the iridescent fungi or the rivers that flowed uphill. No, it was something far more improbable. Human footprints. The sandy plain shimmered under the golden sky, and the tracks seemed almost surreal, their clarity defying the passage of time, as though they carried the weight of something monumental and inexplicable. They stretched across a sandy plain near the planet's equator, impossibly fresh. The intricate ridges of each step caught the light, evoking a palpable tension among the crew, as though the very air held the presence of an unseen watcher. The Xelari, a meticulous and highly logical race, prided themselves on their capacity for scientific reasoning. And yet, standing before these tracks, even the most seasoned among them found themselves at a loss. They matched the database, declared Ensign Vokren, his crest of emerald feathers flattening with unease as he hovered over a holographic display. Human prints. Specifically, male. Approximately 80 kilograms in mass and about 1.8 meters tall. Captain Tilrax tilted his head slightly, his reflective eyes narrowing in deep thought, his claws tapping a rhythmic pattern on the ground as he processed the weight of the discovery. Humans. On XG-476. That's preposterous. They've never charted this sector. The team exchanged uneasy glances. Despite their advancements, humans remained an enigma to many species, including the Xelari. Their technology was primitive by galactic standards, their biology unremarkable. Yet, somehow, they had a reputation that far exceeded their apparent capabilities. Stories of their resilience and peculiarities rippled through the galaxy, tales that most Xelari dismissed as exaggeration. And yet, Captain, Vokren murmured, his voice low, there they are. He gestured toward the tracks with one delicate claw. The captain stepped closer, his clawed feet crunching against the crystalline sand. The prints were crisp, the ridges of each toe pad perfectly preserved. Impossible. The planet's atmosphere was laced with trace levels of argonium, which should have corroded any organic material in mere moments. Yet here lay evidence defying every scientific principle they knew. Scan the surrounding area. I want a full environmental analysis, Tilrax ordered. His crew, well versed in his terse commands, immediately dispersed. Drones zipped into the air, their spherical forms emitting soft hums as they collected data. It was then that Lieutenant Myra, a young and eager biologist, noticed something peculiar. Her scales, usually a soft lavender, flushed a deep violet, a Xelari reaction to heightened emotions. Captain, over here. The crew turned to see her crouched beside one of the prints. She held up a small device, its screen flickering with lines of text. There's an energy signature. It's faint, but it's non-Xelari. The energy signature pulsed irregularly, its faint resonance sending ripples through the Xelari's instruments, evoking a sense of something ancient yet intensely focused, as if aware of their presence. Tilrax's mandibles clicked again. Explain. It's residual. As if something passed through here. Not quite a warp signature, but something similar. I think this might be evidence of a transport. A transport? Here. Vokren scoffed. By whom? Humans lack the capacity for interdimensional travel. Or so we've been told, Myra countered, her tone sharp. Enough, Tilrax interjected. His gaze swept over the tracks again. If this is a transport signature, then someone or something has brought humans here. We need answers, and we're not leaving until we have them. As the Xelari continued their investigation, the tension in the camp grew palpable. The planet, for all its beauty, felt unnervingly silent. There were no sounds of wildlife, no rustle of wind. Only the soft crunch of their movements and the hum of their equipment broke the stillness. Hours later, as the suns dipped below the horizon, casting the landscape in shades of amber and indigo, the crew's central console emitted a shrill alarm. Tilrax and his officers rushed to the command module, where Myra was already at work. What is it? Tilrax demanded. Myra's claws danced over the controls, her voice tinged with both excitement and fear. There's a structure. Approximately 2 kilometers from here. The scans picked it up just moments ago. Moments ago? How is that possible? Velorian snapped. We've been scanning this area for hours. We would have seen it. Unless it wasn't there before, Myra murmured. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, but Tilrax wasted no time. Prepare a scouting team. We're investigating this immediately. The trek to the structure was eerily quiet. Even the typically verbose Velorian refrained from his usual commentary. When they finally arrived, the sight that greeted them was unlike anything they had anticipated. The structure was massive, a towering spire of smooth, black material that seemed to drink in the light around it. Symbols ancient and unfamiliar glowed faintly along its surface. The air hummed with an almost imperceptible vibration, setting the Xelari's feathers and scales on edge. This isn't human, Myra whispered, her voice barely audible. No, Tilrax agreed. But it's connected to them. I can feel it. As the team approached, the symbols along the spire began to glow brighter. The hum grew louder, resonating in their very bones. And then, without warning, a section of the spire began to shift, opening like a massive iris. Inside, the darkness seemed alive, whispering with inaudible murmurs that seemed to form half-words, exuding a faint, cold breeze that coiled around the Xelari like a living thing. Captain, Velorian began, his voice trembling slightly, perhaps we should call for reinforcements. Tilrax shook his head. We've come this far. Whatever this is, it's too important to delay. We're going in. One by one, the Xelari entered the spire, their bioluminescent equipment casting soft glows that barely penetrated the thick shadows within. The air inside was cool and carried a faint metallic tang. The walls seemed to pulse faintly, as though alive. And then they saw it. At the center of the chamber, suspended in a column of light, was a human figure. He appeared to be in stasis, his features serene as though he were merely sleeping. Around him, intricate machinery whirred softly, and the symbols from the spire's exterior danced across the walls. A human, Myra breathed, her voice a mix of awe and disbelief. But how? Why? Before anyone could answer, the chamber shuddered. The symbols on the walls flashed rapidly, and the human's eyes snapped open. They were piercing and full of something the Xelari couldn't quite comprehend. The human's lips moved, his fragmented words emerging like echoes from another reality, sharp bursts of static crackling through the Xelari's translators as panic flickered in their eyes, each struggling to grasp the enormity of what they were hearing. But one phrase came through clear and unfiltered. You shouldn't have come here. The Xelari barely had time to react before the spire's hum escalated into a deafening roar, and the room was flooded with blinding light. In that moment, every assumption they'd ever made about humanity began to unravel. The cryptic warning and the discovery of the human shattered the Xelari crew's sense of order. Confused voices filled the command room, claws tapping frantically at controls as the overwhelming weight of unanswered questions and looming danger pressed down on them. Back aboard their ship, the Velorian, every console was alive with frantic activity. Readouts blinked, graphs spiked, and data poured in as the crew struggled to make sense of the impossible. How could a human, a species not known for advanced interstellar travel, be here? And why did this planet seem so intimately tied to their presence? Captain Tilrax sat in the command chair, his claws gripping the armrests so tightly that faint indents marred the polished metal. His reflective eyes darted between the screens projected before him, each filled with alarming reports. The spire is reacting to us, Myra said, her lavender scales now tinged with a pale silver, a Xelari sign of heightened stress. She hovered over a console, her claws dancing over controls. Energy levels are rising at an unprecedented rate, Myra said, her voice tight with urgency. The air seemed to hum with latent power, and several consoles blinked erratically as if reacting to the surge. This thing is waking up and fast. And the human? Tilrax demanded. Myra hesitated. Still unconscious. But his vitals are stabilizing. It's as though the spire's energy is sustaining him. The room fell silent as the weight of her words settled over the crew. The spire wasn't just an ancient relic, it was alive, or at least operational. And it had a connection to this lone human, a connection none of them could fathom. Captain, Vokren's voice broke the silence, his usual confidence replaced with trepidation. The spire's energy signature is spreading. Look. A holographic projection filled the room, displaying a map of XG476. The spire's location was marked by a pulsating red dot, but now, thin tendrils of energy snaked outward from it, branching like the roots of an invasive plant. The tendrils pulsed with a haunting rhythm, their faint glow casting eerie shadows on the terrain. A deep, resonant hum reverberated through the air, causing an almost tangible vibration that seemed to unsettle the crew with each creeping inch forward. "It's not just spreading," Myra whispered, her voice trembling as her eyes darted across the flickering display. "It's triggering, something larger, something alive. And it's reacting to us." Before Tilrax could respond, the ship's lights flickered. A low hum reverberated through the hull, growing in intensity until it became a deafening roar. The crew scrambled, their voices rising in panic as equipment sputtered and failed. "Status report." Tilrax barked, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Massive energy surge from the spire." Vokren yelled. "It's interfering with our systems. Shields are failing, propulsion is offline, and life support is." He paused, his crest flattening in alarm. "Captain, life support is critical." Tilrax's mandibles clicked in rapid succession, a Xelari gesture of barely contained frustration. "Evacuate to emergency compartments. Route all remaining power to life support and communications. We need to send a distress signal." The crew rushed to comply, their movements precise despite the growing panic. Emergency lights bathed the ship in an eerie red glow, casting long shadows that danced across the walls. As Tilrax moved to assist, his communicator crackled to life. "Captain," Myra's voice came through, strained but steady. "The human, he's waking up." Tilrax froze. The human. The center of this unfathomable mystery. He hesitated only a moment before making his decision. "I'm heading to the containment chamber. Vokren, you have the bridge." The corridors of the Velorian were chaotic, filled with the sounds of alarms and the hurried footsteps of the crew. Tilrax pushed through the commotion, his resolve firm. When he reached the containment chamber, he found Myra and a medical officer standing over the human, whose eyes were now open and scanning the room with a calm intensity that seemed almost unnatural. "Can he understand us?" Tilrax asked as he entered. "The translators are working," Myra replied, though her voice was tinged with uncertainty. "But his neural activity is off the charts. It's as if his brain is processing information at an inhuman rate." The human's gaze shifted to Tilrax. When he spoke, his voice was deep and resonant, carrying an authority that belied his vulnerable position. "You need to leave this planet. Now." Tilrax's mandibles twitched. "You're in no position to give orders, human. Explain yourself. How are you here? What is this spire?" The human's expression didn't change, but there was a glint of something, perhaps pity, in his eyes. "You don't understand what you've awakened. That spire isn't a building. It's a warning. And now it's too late." Before Tilrax could press further, the ship shuddered violently. The lights flickered again, and a new alarm blared. Myra checked her console, her face contorting in disbelief. "The spire, it's emitting a gravitational pulse. The planet's crust is destabilizing." "What does that mean?" Tilrax demanded. "It means the planet is tearing itself apart." The human's calm demeanor didn't waver. "This is just the beginning. The spire's activation sends a signal across the stars. They will come." "They?" Tilrax repeated, his voice rising. "The ones who built it," the human replied. "And they don't take kindly to trespassers." The words sent a chill through Tilrax, but he didn't have time to dwell on them. The ship's intercom crackled to life, Vokren's voice cutting through the noise. "Captain, we have a problem. The tendrils from the spire they're reaching for the ship." Tilrax turned back to the human. "If you know something that can help us, now is the time to share it." The human's gaze hardened. "Your technology is no match for what's coming," the human said, his voice unnervingly calm. his unblinking gaze fixed on the captain, his posture exuding both confidence and an unsettling sense of inevitability. "Trust me, and I'll get you out alive." Tilrax hesitated. Trusting an unknown entity, especially a human, went against every protocol. But protocol had done nothing to prepare them for this. "What do you need?" he asked finally. "Control of your ship," the human said without hesitation. "And no interference." "Absolutely not," Vokren's voice interjected through the intercom. "We can't hand over our ship to." "Do it," Tilrax interrupted, his voice firm. "If he's lying, we're dead anyway." "Myra, unlock the command protocols." Myra hesitated but complied, her claws trembling as she entered the override codes. The human sat up with unnerving precision, his eyes darting methodically around the room as if cataloguing every detail. His movements exuded an eerie confidence, leaving the Xelari crew uneasy as they exchanged uncertain glances. He stepped to the nearest console and began inputting commands at a speed that left the Xelari stunned. "What are you doing?" Tilrax asked. "Sending a countersignal," the human replied. "The spire isn't just a beacon," the human said, his tone darkening as a shadow seemed to cross his face. "It's a weapon, one designed to eradicate intruders with ruthless precision. If I can disrupt its frequency, I might be able to buy us some time." The ship shuddered again, the tendrils now visible through the viewports, glowing with an eerie blue light as they crept closer. The human worked quickly, his focus unbroken even as the situation grew more dire. "Got it," he said finally. The ship lurched violently as the tendrils recoiled, their light dimming. But the relief was short-lived. "Captain," Vokren's voice came through again. "The spire, it's changing. The energy levels are spiking again." The human turned to Tilrax, his expression grim. "This isn't over. The signal has been sent. We need to leave this system now, or we'll face something far worse than a collapsing planet." Tilrax's mandibles clicked as he made his decision. "Prepare for emergency evacuation. Everyone, to your stations. We're getting out of here." The Xelari crew was a flurry of motion as they scrambled to prepare the Velorian for an emergency evacuation. The human's ominous words reverberated in Captain Tilrax's mind. "The signal has been sent. They will come." Who were they? And what kind of force could provoke such fear in a creature as enigmatic as this human? "Captain," Vokren's voice crackled over the intercom, "the spire's energy levels are spiking again. We need to move now." "Understood," Tilrax responded. His mandibles clicked in a steady rhythm as he directed his focus to the task at hand. "Myra, secure the human. I want him monitored at all times. If he knows something that can save us, we'll need him conscious and cooperative." The human, now standing with unsettling composure despite the chaos around him, turned his piercing gaze toward the captain. "You're not going to make it far with just evacuation procedures," he said, his tone measured. "Your ship isn't equipped to handle what's coming." "Then what do you suggest?" Tilrax asked, his voice sharp. "We fight," the human said simply. His calm demeanor and concise words silenced the room. "If you're lucky, you'll survive long enough to understand why." Before Tilrax could respond, the ship shuddered violently. The tendrils of energy from the spire were no longer just creeping, they surged toward the Velorian like striking vipers, their glow now an intense, almost blinding white. Alarms blared, and the lights flickered as the gravitational forces around the ship fluctuated wildly. "Captain, the spire's tendrils are latching onto the hull." Vokren's panicked report came through. "Structural integrity is failing. We're losing power across multiple systems." Tilrax gripped the armrest of his command chair, his claws digging into the metal. "Divert all available power to shields." "Myra, what's the human doing?" Myra, stationed near the containment chamber, watched with growing apprehension as the human moved to a console, his fingers flying over the controls with astonishing speed. His accessing the ship's systems. "I don't know how, but his overriding security protocols." "What?" Tilrax snapped. "Stop him." "No," the human interjected, his voice cutting through the chaos. "If you want to live, let me work." Tilrax hesitated, his instincts screaming against trusting the human, but the desperation of the situation left him no choice. Fine. But if you betray us, I'll see to it you regret it. Fair, the human replied without looking up. As the tendrils continued to constrict the Velorian, the human's efforts produced immediate results. A low-frequency pulse emitted from the ship, causing the tendrils to recoil slightly. The lights stabilized, and the alarms grew quieter, though the danger was far from over. What was that? Myra asked, her voice a mix of awe and suspicion. A counterpulse, the human explained. The spire's energy works on a specific frequency. Disrupt it, and you disrupt its control. Can we use this to escape? Tilrax asked. The human paused before responding. Not entirely. It's temporary. The spire will adapt. But it bought us time. Time for what? Myra pressed. For them to arrive, the human said, his voice grim. As if on cue, the ship's sensors picked up multiple incoming signatures. Vokren's voice, now trembling, filled the command room. Captain, I don't know how to describe this. There are ships. Massive ships entering the system. The main viewport flickered to life, revealing the alien vessels. They were unlike anything the Xelari had ever encountered. Organic in design, their hulls seemed to shift and ripple as though alive. Bright, pulsing lights moved across their surfaces, forming patterns that defied logic. Those are the builders of the spire, the human said, stepping closer to the viewport. They don't take kindly to trespassers. Then why haven't they destroyed us already? Tilrax demanded. Because they're waiting, the human replied. Watching. Deciding if you're worth sparing. And what determines that? Myra asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Your actions, the human said simply. Fight or flee. Show strength or submission. Either way, they will judge you. Tilrax's mandibles clicked furiously as he processed the human's words. The weight of the decision fell squarely on his shoulders. Fleeing was the logical choice, but would it provoke the builders? Fighting seemed suicidal, but perhaps it was the only way to prove their worth. Captain, Vokren interrupted, we're being hailed. The crew froze. Tilrax exchanged a glance with Myra before nodding. Put it through. The voice that filled the room was deep, resonant, and alien in a way that defied easy description. It spoke in a language their translators struggled to process, the words coming through fragmented and distorted. But one phrase emerged clearly. Prove your worth. The crew turned to Tilrax, waiting for his command. The captain straightened, his resolve hardening. Prepare all weapons. If they want proof, we'll show them what the Xelari are capable of. The human stepped forward, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Now you're starting to understand. The Velorian surged into action, its weapons systems coming online as the alien ships began to move. The builders' vessels loomed closer, their presence almost suffocating in its enormity. Tilrax issued orders with precision, his crew responding with the discipline born of years of training. As the first volley of energy blasts erupted from the Velorian, the human took his place at a secondary console. His fingers moved with inhuman speed, tapping into systems the Xelari barely understood. Under his guidance, the ship's targeting became sharper, its defenses more adaptive. The battle that followed was unlike anything the Xelari had ever faced. The builders' ships moved with an eerie grace, their counterattacks precise and devastating. But the Velorian held its ground, its crew pushed to their limits under Tilrax's command. Amid the chaos, the human's voice cut through. Captain, I've identified a weakness in their formation. If we concentrate fire here, he pointed to a cluster of ships on the tactical display, we might force them to retreat. Tilrax didn't hesitate. All units, focus fire on the designated target. The ship's weapons roared to life, their concentrated firepower slamming into the cluster of builder ships. For a moment, the alien vessels faltered, their shifting forms destabilizing. The Xelari crew erupted in a chorus of triumph as the enemy ships began to retreat, their glowing patterns dimming. But the victory was short-lived. As the builders withdrew, the spire emitted a final, blinding pulse of energy. The Velorian was hurled backward, its systems overloaded. Sparks flew, and the lights flickered before the ship's emergency power stabilized the situation. The human's voice broke the silence. You survived. That's more than most can say. Tilrax turned to him, his mandibles clicking in irritation. What happens now? The human's expression grew serious. Now, you decide what to do with the knowledge you've gained. But remember, they'll be watching. The Velorian drifted in the void, its battered hull reflecting the dim light of distant stars. The silence was heavy, broken only by the faint hum of emergency systems and the occasional murmur of the weary crew, their eyes shadowed with exhaustion and lingering fear. The crew's exhaustion was palpable, their movements slow as they worked to stabilize systems. The alien ships had withdrawn to the edges of the system, their shimmering forms a constant reminder that the Xelari were still under scrutiny. Status report, Captain Tilrax demanded, his voice hoarse. Minimal propulsion restored, Myra replied, her claws trembling as she monitored her console. Weapon systems are offline, and shields are holding at 15%. Structural integrity is stable, for now. And the spire? Tilrax's mandibles clicked softly as he turned his gaze to the viewport, where the ominous structure still loomed. Dormant again, Velorian said, his crest sagging in relief. The energy signature has decreased significantly. But, it's not deactivated. It's waiting. The human stepped forward, his presence commanding attention despite his unassuming appearance. You bought yourselves time, he said, his tone carrying an edge of urgency. But the builders, they're still watching, assessing whether your actions speak of recklessness or resolve. Tilrax turned to face him, his reflective eyes narrowing. What more do they want from us? The human's expression softened, an unexpected hint of empathy in his gaze. It's not about what they want. It's about what you choose to show them. They're not just evaluating your technology or your strength. They're evaluating your potential. How you handle conflict. How you adapt. How you grow. And what happens if we fail their test? Myra asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The human's silence spoke volumes. The bridge fell into a tense silence, each crew member's reaction betraying their inner turmoil, a clenched jaw, twitching claws, or a flicker of determination in their eyes as they absorbed the weight of the human's words. Tilrax, ever the strategist, broke the silence. We need a plan. If they're watching, we'll show them what it means to be Xelari. Velorian, prioritize system repairs. Myra, analyze the spire's current state. Find anything we can use to our advantage. As the crew set to work, the human moved to a viewport, gazing at the alien ships with an unreadable expression. Myra hesitated before approaching him. Do you think they'll attack again? She asked quietly. I don't know, he admitted. But I know this, every choice you make now matters. Even the smallest one. Hours stretched into a tense silence aboard the Velorian. Repairs progressed slowly, and the alien ships remained an ever-present shadow on the edge of their sensors. Finally, Myra broke the stalemate with a discovery. Captain, I've found something, she announced, her voice carrying a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The spire, it's broadcasting a signal. It's faint, but it's directed at the builders. Tilrax's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Can we intercept it? Already done, Myra replied. It's a message. A log of everything that's happened since we arrived. Every action we've taken. The revelation sent a ripple through the bridge. Tilrax's gaze hardened. So they're judging us based on that. The human nodded. They don't care about your intentions. Only the results. If you want to change the narrative, you'll need to do something decisive. Like what? Tilrax asked. Return to the spire, the human said. Show them you're willing to confront the unknown, he said firmly. Take responsibility for your choices and prove you're more than just another fleeting species. That's madness, Velorian interjected. We barely survived the first encounter. Returning would be suicide. Maybe, the human replied calmly. But it might also be the only way to prove you're worthy of something more. Tilrax studied the human, weighing his words. Finally, he turned to his crew. Prepare the shuttle. Myra, Velorian, you're with me. We're going back to the spire. The journey to the spire was fraught with tension. The closer they got, the more the alien ships seemed to stir, their movements fluid and watchful. The shuttle landed with a soft hiss, its occupants stepping out onto the crystalline sands with measured caution. The spire's surface glowed faintly, its shifting symbols casting a mesmerizing light that danced across the crystalline sands. A faint hum vibrated through the air, accompanied by a subtle rise in temperature, as if the spire itself was alive and scrutinizing their presence. The air buzzed with a faint, electric charge, the atmosphere heavy with anticipation. Tilrax stepped forward, his voice steady. "We came here seeking knowledge, not conflict. We've made mistakes, but we're willing to learn. If you're truly watching, then judge us by our willingness to face our failures." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the spire pulsed with a brilliant light, its energy surging upward in a dazzling display. The alien ships shifted, their formations tightening as if in response. The crew held their breath. The humans stepped beside Tilrax. "Whatever happens next, you've done more than most would. That counts for something." As the spire's radiant light dimmed, the alien ships shifted their formations and began to withdraw, their shimmering forms fading into the void with a graceful finality. A collective breath was released on the bridge, tension ebbing like a receding tide. The oppressive tension lifted, replaced by a profound stillness. "Captain," Myra said softly, I think they're leaving." Tilrax exhaled, his mandibles clicking softly. "Then it's over." "Not over," the human corrected. "Just beginning. What you do with this knowledge, that's the real test." As the shuttle returned to the Velorian, the crew found themselves contemplating the weight of their survival. They had faced the unknown, endured its trials, and emerged intact. The builders had left them alive, but their gaze would never be far. Tilrax stood at the viewport, gazing out at the now empty void. "Set a course for home," he said, his voice resolute. "We have much to prepare for." And as the Velorian drifted away from the spire, the Xelari carried with them the weight of their survival and the hope of what lay ahead. Tilrax stood at the viewport, his voice steady as he declared, "Set a course for home. This is only the beginning." The stars awaited, filled with new dangers, challenges, and possibilities. And this time, they would face them not with fear, but with the knowledge that they had proven themselves worthy of the universe's gaze.